All right. Hi, and welcome to my Dinner with Friends podcast. We are the podcast where good friends get together and we review one of the new hot restaurants in LA, and then we give you the dish by dish. So let me share with you how this came together. Courtney and I are great friends. We're in an organization called YPO, and we eat out a lot together. And then we came to the realization, well, I came to the realization that I love dining with this girl, and we love dining together and talking about it. So that's what this podcast is all about. We will review a new LA restaurant every single time, and we will give you what we call the dish by dish, play by play, dish by dish. And then we're going to tell you Courtney's going to tell you if it's worth it. And share with everyone, Courtney, why we chose worth it or not worth it.
We because going out to dinner, it's not just about the money we spend, but more importantly, the time and expectation of
Yeah.
what it is to dine with friends. And we love amazing food. So I know, I growing up in the restaurant business, I always remember bad food. You always remember that dish that didn't sit with you, and then you always remember the amazing food, the amazing dishes, those ones that you crave, that you have like food envy and you want to go back for more and more and more. So that's and we love doing it. So, and we always talk about the food when we're at dinner anyways.
Yes. Yes. So it's really time and resources and connection, and we want to be able to tell you if it's worth it or if it's not. But we're also going to want to inspire you to do the same, because going out to dinner, exploring new places and talking about it, talking about food and wine and drinks and connection is just so much fun.
Agreed.
Okay, so let me tell you about my partner here, Courtney. So I've eaten with a lot of people, and I love talking food with a lot of people, but Courtney is, I call her the trifecta of culinary expression. The trifecta because it's in her soul. Like it's like she grew up with it. She was in the food and restaurant business since she could crawl and was already telling people what to do as soon as she could talk. And so it's in her blood, it's in her history, but also it's in her like passion. She loves food and she understands it and she loves to create it. And then she was blessed and born with this amazing palate. Wow. So that's why Courtney really knows how to think, feel, download, and express food so well.
And I love dining with Sue because she is the best, most enthusiastic eater. So like and she'll eat anything, and I eat everything I'm not allergic to. And over the past several years, Sue has become an incredible budding farmer. You should see this farm in Oregon, which we'll share more and more as we go through. But these vegetables and fruit and that she's growing and really learning the ingredients from seed has inspired me as well.
And we all know that to be a great chef and to provide a great dining experience, you have to have relationships with farmers, and that is vitally important. So I love that I can provide that insight as well. All right, so let's get started. So this restaurant we went to was RYLA, right in Courtney's hometown of Hermosa Beach, and we were really excited. So let's go ahead and get started with RYLA. All right, we start with cocktails because we always want a good ketchup. And I have to say, their cocktail menu was a lot of fun. The names were so cool. So, Courtney, what did you get?
I had the
Herbie Hancock.
margarita. What
You
was
got
the name?
you got the Herb E. Hancock.
The Herbie E. Hancock. And it was delicious, and the fresh mint in it, I think really gave it some, a different twist flavor, like a little mojito-esque, but still had like a little bite to it, which I always like in a margarita.
But you said something about the pour.
Yeah, I mean, the glass is not full. Like, What's up with that? It's a theme for us, apparently.
Yeah, we want a proper drink, and that includes like kind of giving us the full portion, right?
Or make the glass smaller like yours. I mean,
All right. So good cocktail, but they could have filled it up a little bit more. All right. I had here You Only Live Twice. It was Vesper with lime infused, Haku vodka, Roku gin, Jingo sake, and some shisho oil. So there's a lot in there. What I was excited about, because the waitress, who was wonderful, said, there's kind of an herbaceous component of this. I don't like sweet cocktails. I tend to like savory, herby cocktails. And I really love shiso. It's one of the things that I've been growing on my farm. I love the flavor of shiso. So that's kind of what I was looking for. They drizzled this shiso oil on top, and I didn't get it. So I think it would have done better if they actually put maybe the shiso leaf in with the cocktail, which is stunning. But I thought the cocktail was okay, but I just didn't get the shiso. So
I agree. It almost tasted like a little dirty versus like there was a little aftertaste to it.
yes, yeah. All right. Well, so Courtney and I ordered one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 dishes. So we better get started. Here we go. All right. The first dish we got was the sashimi. And so it was I don't think they had it on the menu per se, but it was the sashimi. So maybe share with us your thoughts on this.
I love the plating of it. It was beautiful. The fish quality itself, I mean, I certainly consider myself a sushi connoisseur. And to me, like it wasn't the melt in your mouth yellowtail that I'm used to. And also it did taste a little fishy to me. There were some veins in it that weren't my favorite. I know you felt differently, so I'd love to hear.
Well, I thought the fish quality was just okay. I would agree with you, but it wasn't, they're not a sushi restaurant. So just kind of having that dish, I didn't expect the sushi quality to be phenomenal. So it was okay. But I did like how everything was just kind of minimal, and having the components of it so you can focus on the fish. I really like that, because sometimes you get a yellowtail dish and it's just drowning in ponzu and drowning in things, and you just don't really get the fish. So I really like the minimal component of this dish.
I guess my quandary was the waitress said it was like her favorite thing on the menu. So I was a little concerned.
Yes. So this dish was, it was okay.
It was fine. It
Yeah.
was fine.
All right. All right, moving on, dish by dish, we've got here, because it's seasonal. So we're coming into the fall season, and I love to grow squashes. This particular squash is a honey nut squash, which is kind of a smaller, cute version of a butternut squash, but a similar flavor. And so this is the 5 spice roasted honey nut squash with shiitake mushrooms, sage, red quinoa, pickled mustard greens, and I'm going to butcher it, chinois gastrique. So it's very pretty. It came out. What were your thoughts?
I mean, I felt like it was out of place. I felt like it wasn't really there were some fall items on the menu, but it just felt out of place. The seasoning was overpowering,
Yes.
and it it was missing a little touch of salt on top. The highlight of this dish for me, though, surprisingly, is I loved that quinoa on the side. I thought it was super flavorful. It had a crunch to it. It was light and delicious. And I actually really liked the quinoa. I wanted more of it.
I thought that they just smothered this poor little butternut squash, honey nut squash with just too many spices, and it's kind of like when you have a really good potato and you just kill it with just this too much stuff. I just don't like that at all, because it just takes away from how wonderful this ingredient is. So they just killed it with too many spices and dripping with
You
honey.
know, the other thing is it almost needed a little bit of butter. Like as I'm thinking about it, I really feel like there was something missing to it, and it was just a little bit of sea salt and a little bit of butter would have changed it, but I still think like it didn't fit with the rest of the menu.
Yes, agreed. All right. Moving on to this was kind of a dish we were excited about. This is the Valley Pearl oysters on the half shell with a gray minuet jelly and some tarragon. And so, Courtney, what did you think about this dish? Let me show you another picture of it because it's so pretty. Oh, all right.
I mean, this was amazing. Literally, like I would go back for this dish solely and eat like dozens of them. That that it was like a mignette gelée and it was so delicious. And having the fresh herb on top, just it really made it. I mean, I loved these oysters. I could have eaten these all night.
I thought it was so creative too because I love to have the perfect oyster bite and put a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But ultimately it just drips out, because and so how they made this perfect jelly that wasn't too, it was just the perfect
And
texture.
it was like almost frozen. So it like had that cold feel to it. It was like the perfect bite and perfectly seasoned. I mean, I thought these were delicious.
Yes. Yes. So we could have just kind of been checked out and just had dozens of these. All right, so that was so delicious. My goodness, like bring it on. All right, this was our next dish. We both love scallops. These are Hokkaido scallops crudo. And what did you think about this one?
I mean, like even this picture doesn't do the plate justice. This was such a beautiful dish.
Yeah.
Um, only a couple things I would have done differently is literally it could have used like 3 flakes of salt, would have taken it from here to here. And I would have put more shisho on it. Like it was that I feel like that flavor really made it and combined. And when there's only 3 pieces and you have a lot of scallop on there, it could have used a couple more. Or even flake it, right? So that you could have got the taste and flavor in every bite. But it was delicious.
I love that it was just a summer dish as well. The use of, just the ripest, sweetest tomatoes, with the tomato sauce on the bottom. It was so well done. It was one of those, Court and I talk about those dishes that you think about, food memory. This could have been a food memory dish if they just had those a few little things on there because it was so fresh and beautiful and unique.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. So I felt pretty good about this dish, though. I would order it again. All right. Next. Next, we had the crispy masa shrimp tempura. And this was on a chilled corn soup, charred avocado, melon, salsa mancha, and cilantro.
I mean, this dish was beautiful. And the presentation and the service of it just outstanding. I thought the flavors were really, really good and that they really worked. And the chili oil, and it was creamy and yet not heavy. It was like light and creamy and delicious with a spice to it. The one comment I would have is that the shrimp was a little bit overcooked. The shrimp was a little bit tough.
And was the shrimp supposed to be cold?
No,
Because and maybe because I felt like my shrimp could have been hotter. Like it was just, maybe because it sat in there, but I think that they waited too long, maybe to put the shrimp in there. And maybe that's why the shrimp was tasted a little overcooked and not quite hot enough. But I think that if they had just made the shrimp tempura right away and then put it in there, I think it would have been perfect.
yeah, and brought it out. Or maybe we let it sit for a couple extra minutes, on the table. I don't know. But other than that, like the flavors were absolutely delicious, I thought.
I thought so too. And also, I got to give like cred to be able to char an avocado. It's not something I've ever done before. Have you done that?
I have not.
I mean, that can't be easy,
And
but
it looks pretty, like it just all worked. Like it was very pretty, it was light. But again, like I understand corn soup being fall-ish, but it was still like light summery, and so was the scallop, and then the squash didn't match with the menu, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah. Well, if we're gonna have to be picky on this dish, but I do give them a lot of props for being so creative with these flavors. I thought it was really unique and surprising. And I like being surprised, using various different ingredients and trying something different. So this is something I certainly never had before. So a lot of
And the
props.
presentation, it really was like a wow factor to me.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Moving on. So we kind of like toggled on this one because there was two rice dishes on here, and because of the Asian background of this restaurant, we were excited to try one of the noodles or the rice dishes. So we had to decide between the truffle fried rice or the ox tongue curry rice. And I know we were both wanting to do the ox tongue curry, but we love truffle. Courtney and I are both fans of truffle because we just love that essence of truffle. And so we got the truffle one, and
So our eyes were lit up because we saw all the shaved truffle on top and we were super excited. And then we mixed it around and took a bite and looked at each other,
yeah.
and I literally could not taste the truffle.
Okay, there's the video of us mixing it. And we were even kind of like, because we were just gonna like eat the truffle off the top, but we knew that that was not the right way to do it. So we mixed it in, and we both kind of looked at each other in utter disappointment. I mean, if you know what children look like when they don't get their ice cream, that's what our faces look like because we were so ready for that truffle flavor. And when your body has food memory and you expect a flavor and you don't get it, you get kind of sad.
And it wasn't just the lack of the truffle flavor, like it was lacking in flavor in general, in my opinion. Like it just really, it was a miss, and I was so sad in it. And for $38, like I did have high expectations.
I had high expectations too. They used like a Taiwanese barbecue pork, which was delicious, and they had the basic components of a really good Taiwanese or Japanese fried rice, with the egg and the pork. But then there was just it was missing all the other elements of what makes a good fried rice, and then there was no truffle.
Correct.
All right. Next major dish that we got was the grilled New Zealand Thai snapper, and that's going to be with a lime coconut broth, mussels, daikon, and Fresno chili.
This dish really fell flat for me. I felt like the fish was not perfectly cooked. It was bland. There were a couple little mussels on the plate, and they had an aftertaste to them, and it was a really big miss for me.
Well, in the lime coconut broth, it did nothing for the dish.
Nothing. There was no flavor to it. Like it was very bland.
It was just basically created a base of color, not really any base of flavor. And so what happened with this dish is that we just each took a bite, and that was it. And then I'm not sure if he was the manager or somebody, but he came by and he checked on us, and he asked us what we thought of the dish because clearly we're both very enthusiastic eaters with a very, very hearty appetite. And there was only a little, like only like a third, a quarter of the fish was eaten, and he saw what we did with the other plates if we liked it.
Which, one was very observant. His name was David. He was amazing. I'm sure he was a manager. I don't know if he was the GM or manager on duty, but he was lovely. He came over, and, Sue, being her nice self, was going into everything's great. And me thinking about it like this, like there were things that were good that we had, and like coming from my restaurant background, I always want to help, right? Like I'm a helper in general. So I told him the truth, and coming knowing that the customer is always right, even when they're wrong, but he really stepped up. He actually took the snapper and the fried rice off of our bill, apologized, really service wise, top notch, handled us completely well. Like I mean, everything that I would have done is how I felt that he took care of and handled the situation brilliantly.
Yes. And really, those two dishes that he took off in Courtney, you're right. Like I tend to be like, okay, everything's good. And I'm so glad that, and that's why you guys will love us together is because we have different personalities, which is good. But Courtney did give her honest feedback on the fish dish and the truffle rice dish and just said, we tasted a truffle on there. And I think that that's probably good information for him because a truffle is an ambitious ingredient and truffle has a half shelf life of 1 day. That means it's really easy to lose that essence of the truffle. So you've got this truffle that you paid a lot of money for, but it could taste like nothing. I mean, that's very easy to happen. So you took those both off our menus and then suggested, which is great, then suggested that we get dessert. So did he pick the dessert or did we pick the dessert?
I think we picked it, but I mean, he suggested, we picked it. He wanted to comp it. We refused him comping it because obviously he did this, but such a nice gesture. So
Yes.
I think ultimately I don't remember. Maybe he picked, we picked, together we picked a couple desserts because
All right.
now that we started our last dessert trend with Girl and the Goat, we had to, I think it's got to continue. It's like the
Of
cocktail,
course.
we're all in.
We want our listeners to have full service. That means we got cocktails to dessert. We will go through the whole menu for you. Like I said, Courtney and I are really voracious, ambitious eaters, and we can consume a lot of food. So, yes, you saw those courses and here we are at the end. I found my desserts. So, here are the desserts that we got. Sorry, I thought I had it pulled up. Okay, so I got it was a dark chocolate, triple chocolate budino. So it had, the chocolate pudding, the white chocolate mousse, and then some passion fruit. So there was a lot going on in here. I thought the dessert fell flat. I thought they were trying to do too many things with the milk, with this pudding and the white mousse. But I did like the passion fruit component. If they would have just scaled it down and focused on just one of the mousses and the passion fruit, I think it would have been a winner. But to me, the dessert was just, it didn't really do anything for me. How about yours?
I thought the passion fruit, was good. Tasted fresh on yours. What was the name of the one I
Okay,
got?
so you got a Andy's Orchard pluot tart. So it's a white chocolate Szechuan peppercorn mousse, salted plum jam, right? Yeah, that's
Yes.
what you got.
Okay. So to me, the best part of this dish were the fresh plums. Everything else fell flat. It really had very little flavor. I'm a big like crust fan. I love pie, you know, and it wasn't, it was lacking flavor completely. And there was so much cream in it, but the cream didn't have flavor to it. So it was just, we literally took a couple bites and that was it. It wasn't worth the calories for sure.
For sure. Yeah, both dishes were, I thought my dish was a little bit better than yours. But yours I thought was because by the time I took a bite of yours, you'd eaten all the plums off of it. So I couldn't even like get that. And then so all I was left with was the white chocolate, part of it and the jam. And I was like, I'm not even gonna have a second bite of that. So, and I'm a voracious dessert eater. All right, so that's the dish by dish on RYLA. And so we gave you guys a lot of information and also the experience of the service and the feedback that they took. Remember, these are new restaurants that are opening, so they have an opportunity to tweak and improve. And so, Courtney, what's the word on the court?
So here's the thing, and I think this with new restaurants sometimes, because I think sometimes you have to give them a chance and get it together and they need the feedback and all of those things. This is one that I may try again, specifically because those oysters just knocked it out of the park. So I think I would go back and I'd order the oysters and like maybe try something different on the menu. So I'm not like I'm not Xing it out exclusively, but I'm not rushing back. I think there's a lot more on our list. You know, one of the things I find is that I have these regular restaurants that I dine at all the time, and they're go-tos and they're consistent, and you know what you're going to get every time you go to them. And I think that's why we started doing this, is one, to like get us out of our comfort zone box of all of our regulars and talk about it and see if we're going back or not. So I would go back, but I'm not rushing back.
So is it worth it or is it not worth it? Gotta hold you to it.
Because of the highlights, I'm going to say it was worth it.
Okay. I'm gonna say it was,
And the service. The
yeah,
service, like, was that like tips me over the edge of worth it to give it another try.
yes. I would completely agree. I kind of wish I didn't have the desserts because if I had just ended it with that amazing service of him noticing that we only had a couple bites of the fish and that we were kind of playing around with the rice, then that would have just, but I think that they have an opportunity to tweak. You know, if you bring, desserts are, there's just so much you can do with desserts. And I believe that they can improve that and a few little tweaks, but then to be so creative and push the envelope on some of those other dishes, I would say it's worth it.
Agreed. So yay, we finally have like an almost worth it, but a worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you, Ryla, for the great service if you're watching this. All right, Courtney, what do we have up for our next restaurant?
So we're looking at Bar Sawa, and it's in LA, and it focuses on Tokyo cocktails with an omakase sushi menu,
Ooh.
17 seats. So we're working on that. I think that's going to be fun. I'm ready for a sushi meal,
Okay.
as always.
Well, I'm excited for that. So stay tuned for our next episode where we will review Bar. What is that again?
Sawa.
Bar Sawa. Say that 5 times. All right. As usual, had so much fun dining with you, Courtney.
As always, can't wait till our next one soon.
Yes. All right. See you next time, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.